Hey, welcome back. SK here with P1 Life, and it may be real chilly up here in the Northeast, but it is all smiles and sunshine this weekend for F1. Why? Because we're in Brazil. Sao Paulo. It is going to be amazing. For what reasons? Well, we're in an amazing destination for one. Great racetrack. And this is the time of the season where the champion has already been decided, at least for the driver. And so, well, also for Mercedes happens to be this time, but for the driver. And so going forward, the rest of the races are just going to be kind of like a free-for-all. You know what I mean? It's anybody's race. Everyone's just really going to go hard. And I think it's going to make for some really good driving. So I'm pretty excited for this weekend's race. And with that said, we need to get into last week's winners, which, if you didn't see, I didn't capture the U.S. race where Hamilton won, of course, but we're going to get into that right now. The champ is here. The champ is here. All right, so you guys know Lewis won. It was kind of destined. I called it. I knew it was going to happen. But really, it was a great race. It really was. I definitely like the U.S. track. I mean, that hill that just goes up right at the beginning, it's just, I can only imagine going up it at 180, 190 miles an hour and not even being able to see the top when you're halfway through it. Anyway, so this guy won the championship. I should say Bottas actually won the race. Followed by Hamilton, then Verstappen, and then I believe we had Leclerc and then Albon. And yeah, shout out Albon, man. He's really been doing his thing for Red Bull. Man, Red Bull is definitely in contention next year for sure. I can't wait to see what happens. But I, for various reasons, did not get to make the post last week for P1 Life on the U.S. race, and of course, what a race to miss. But and it's not really fair to say, because like seeing anything, you could be like, oh, I would have guessed that. But I'm pretty sure I would have been pretty close. I think I would have at least gotten 50% of my predictions right. But I didn't predict. So other than just conjecture and, pure feelings, that's that. And we're on to this week. So, yeah, winners and losers, right? At least I'm here to predict them this week. So we'll see how I do. First two episodes, I did really well. So, this is kind of that deciding factor. Will I flop? Will I not? So right now, I'm going to predict, and maybe it's a little bit of making up for last year, but I'm going to say that Verstappen is going to take P1. And if you haven't seen last year's race, go ahead and watch it again. I'm sure you can find it online or on F1 TV. But yeah, he really should have had that. But anyway, I'm going to say Verstappen, Bottas, and Leclerc. That's going to be on podium. And then I want to say Albon and then Hamilton. And for pole, I want to say is going to be Verstappen. And last place, I want to say is going to be Raikkonen. I just think it's going to be one of those funny races. He's not going to give up. He's going to race, but it'd be crazy. There's definitely some easier choices to make, but hey, this is what it's called when you make predictions, right? And then after him, I'm going to say Giovinazzi. All right, so there's the winners and losers. You can lock it in. By the time this airs, qualifying is just going to start, like always. So let's see how well SK does on his predictions. And what are your guys' predictions? Leave those in the comment section down below. Very interested to see what you guys think, especially now with, it being kind of a free-for-all. Oh, and I should really get into a fastest lap. So who do I think is going to get fastest lap? Bottas. All right. So there it is, all locked in. And with that said, I want to go into the way back moment. So let's check it out. What an emotional picture. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I watched this live. I was all of 4 years old, but I obviously have seen this race. And if you don't know who this guy is, R.I.P. Senna. I mean, that race was just crazy. And I think it was a race that definitely has been used many of times to compare to modern day races. I think I can think of one I want to say it was either early 2019 or late 20 or late 18. Monaco. We'll have to bring it back. But anyway, Ricardo. Just being stuck, not being able to go, I think, past fourth gear was his issue. In this situation, Senna was stuck in sixth. But it's just a great way back moment for Brazil. And then this picture is just emotional because, I mean, the guy was just so exhausted after the race, poured every ounce of himself into that race. He had to be helped out of his car. I mean, and to see him just lift that heavy-ass trophy in the air, you know, it's just one of those kind of like moments that anybody, even if you don't know anything about racing, you just see it and you're like, oh man, that's pulling at my heartstrings a little, like, damn. So I think a great way back moment, and I would highly suggest if you've never seen this race, and you may have just seen highlights or anything like that, then go watch it. And even if you have, I mean, go watch it again. It's a great race. You know, it's just one of those things that, you know, will definitely always be in the history books. And that is why it's on our way back moment. And so with that said, I basically want to get into one issue that I have been thinking about as far as F1 goes. So let's get into that. And before we get into that, I need to show you a map of the actual Grand Prix track in Brazil. And here it is. You can see we only have 2 DRS zones here. But it's definitely a lot of high speed to me. And I enjoy this track. I think it is definitely one for like Ricardo to come in real hot and fast and pass a few people. And I'm pretty sure we'll see Verstappen doing the same thing. But this is definitely the layout of the track, so you can see that there. And yeah, with that said, let's get on to the next segment. So I'm not going to rant too long, but it's just something that I've seen happen, and I will credit F1 throughout the season and so forth. You can see they make little alterations to the way they have the setup on the screen for like the stats and everything, and so they're always working at it. Of course, it's a billion-dollar organization. One thing I can't understand though is when they got the guys that are announcing and you know, speaking, especially on TV, and you know they're going through, you know, who's on top, who's switching with who, what happened, and then every once in a while they jump into the pits and they don't actually jump into the pits, but they go over to the pits, you know, with a microphone, and you can hear them talking to somebody, and it's usually you know, somebody that's leading the team or something like that. But anyway, I don't understand that when that happens and they're talking to somebody and, you know, they're basically having an interview mid-race with somebody, why is it that the sound from the driver's cockpit is coming through in between them talking with whoever they're interviewing at the time? I just don't understand that. I would think it'd be very easy to just cut off those while that's happening. Because one, it's usually just so confusing. You're watching everybody racing, things are happening, you're trying to get into this interview, you're also simultaneously trying to hear whatever the driver's saying all of a sudden, because you can hear it. You know what I mean? But I think if you're going to have the little interview piece, they need to cut that off. And I'm not really sure why that happens. I kind of, if I had a guess, my guess is that if you ever see F1 TV and you go back and watch old races, you can only get the actual view of the race and like the background sounds, and you can get the cockpit driver discussions and so forth, but a lot of them won't have the actual announcements in the background from Sky or whoever the hell those people are. So my guess is that because it's like a separate broadcast from what we're hearing with the announcers, that's why it's kind of overlaid and there's nothing they can do about it. But at the same time, even if that's so, the people that are announcing and having the interview have overall control of what they're sending through. And you could at least just mute altogether the sound, so it's only just them and the interviewee. I don't know. Is it something you guys ever thought about? Do I just sound like I'm ranting and it's such a stupid thing? Let me know in the comments section down below. That's just what I wanted to discuss for this week. And with that said, I definitely appreciate you guys watching. Let me know who you guys, again, think is going to win this race. And, of course, next week is the greatest, one of my favorites, and I can't wait for it. So we got to stay tuned for that. And that's obviously Abu Dhabi. And with that said, I need to end it right here. So I appreciate you guys watching P1 Life. Again, 2020 is going to be much greater, much better. I have a lot of stuff in store for this, but I definitely wanted to just get this kick started, kind of get the old ball rolling, and kind of finish out with all the tweaks and stuff, and get some of the cobwebs gone and stuff, so that way when I come back for 2020 and the season starts for F1, we can have a really great time. So I appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. SK Lifestyle, P1 Life.